All right, I think we're live now. Hopefully you guys can hear me and everything is going. Yes, fantastic. Okay, I forgot to fix it so that everyone could comment. So I'm author Elizabeth Ann West with Future Fiction Academy. I already see that we have one of our other instructors here, Leland Artra. Good to see you, Leland. Also, you can hear. It takes me a second to be like, did I ask if they could hear me? Oh, I did ask if I could hear me. It's so weird to be live and be monologuing. This is definitely so cool. Anyway, I love seeing all of you guys in the chat and everything. And thank you so much for everyone who has made so many of these sessions. We are on session 5. Cinco. So let me go ahead and I'm already sharing my screen and we'll kind of review the plan a little bit and let me police my windows, so to speak. Okay, so we are on session 5. I do want to say that I did something kind of weird on the break. One question I have always had, for those of you who got to watch session 2, you guys watched me take and manually kit bash two sections together, which we have over here in the story engine, where I had chapter 1, chapter 1, chapter 1, and down over here I have my most accurate, I have my kit bash, and I have my best prose. This piece right here is where I was taking these two and I was putting them together. And then while I was doing that, I made notes for myself of like, edit this, or I made notes in brackets of something that I wanted to expand and everything like that. So I went ahead and I took the one that we final edited, the kit bash. One of my sisters made me Brussels sprouts with maple candied bacon. She was trying to support the fact that I was doing all these live streams and everything like that. However, Brussels sprouts, maybe not the best food to eat before you have to go live. But anyway, so I took the kit bash here, the one that's 3,200 words that we got through. There's still 754 words to actually edit here. And I tried this new software called, well, it's not new software, but this thing called CopyLeaks. Now, what's hilarious is that this thing is intended to detect plagiarized content. And so I was kind of co-opting it for my own needs. And so what I've always wondered what it looks like, the text compare. If I put in, this is the edited version, the golden leaves of trees outside. And let's go ahead and grab the most accurate, for example, which is the, what is it? Yeah, it can expire. Oh, we'll say it expires in a week. This was the most accurate prose. I just wanted to know, like, after I've edited, how much of the AI words do kind of stay untouched. And some of you may be like, well, Elizabeth, why are you even wondering this? A couple of reasons. Number one, it doesn't matter to me if you are 100% AI. That's not what I'm saying at all. And why am I getting an error? Interesting. I guess it doesn't want to help me. Okay. Well, we'll just go over the results then. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's not behaving. But my findings were from CopyLeaks was that 40%. It is 40% of what that it matches. 40% of the total final writing had direct connections to the prose most accurate. 29% of it was words untouched. 7% of it was words that were mildly adjusted, I think is what it said. Mild edits or something like that. And what's fascinating about this is when I compared it to best prose, only 8% or 7% matched. And what this told me, and what was important data here, is that right now I've been doing a methodology where I am running most accurate and best prose, most accurate and best prose. When I go through and I edit all of these other chapters up, I think I am going to run them through CopyLeaks just to check against it. Because if it consistently comes that best prose doesn't do more than 7% or 10% to the table, I'm going to cut it from my process. I'm not going to run it, because if I don't need it, if I can just get those words through me or in the editing and everything like that, it's an extra step that I don't need. So, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't run the data. I also like that it helps me to. I've always tried to explain to people that the reason I like to write with AI is because I like writing collaboratively. It makes me feel like it's a junior writing partner. And when I do that, it takes away my fears of not being good enough or not being able to get the right word on the page, I feel like I'm a trapeze artist and I have that safety net underneath me. So I can do all my really cool tricks. And if it doesn't work, if I'm looking, I'm like, oh, that dialogue just really doesn't work. I can just highlight it and go rewrite or describe or give me some other ideas here so that I can riff off of them. So I will say too that I did use CopyLeaks to check for AI detection. It of course detected AI, but the lines that it actually highlighted as saying it was AI, those were actually lines I wrote. So it wasn't really accurate in that sense. And I've also tested it too for saying like, is this AI? And it was books that I wrote before AI ever existed back in 2015. And it has a tendency to come back and say, this is AI. It's probably because I write public domain content. I don't know. But it wasn't very accurate in terms of detecting which lines were AI and which ones were not. And now I've noticed that they're saying, oh, it's a 60% chance it's AI or an 80% chance it's AI. So they can't actually figure it out. Let me check in the chat and see if anyone has any input on that. Yes, they were roasted. All right. So Leland had his question is, do they ever actually get married or is every story a reset? Oh, sir. So in Jane Austen fan fiction, a lot of times what sells really well is the reset, because what we want to read as authors or as readers is we want to read them falling in love over and over and over again. Kind of like for the fantasy genre, somebody could say like, do they ever stop taking quests? The answer is no. So in romances, do they ever stop falling in love? No. And that's what the fantasy, that's what the payoff is. But I appreciate you went through your JAF, and you can do your lives too, sir, so that you can do your fantasy and everything if you want to. I will write other genres too next quarter or next month, or rather, whatever we do. Okay, so moving on, we need to actually get work done. It's 3:08, and I am a little bit more than halfway through my 50,000 word goal. So where we left off is we finished chapter 6 and chapter 7, validating the beats and everything like that. If we were to follow the same pattern as yesterday, I would start editing. But the vote this morning was to not edit. We wanted to just push through and try to get all the words finalized. So I'm going to jump to this page and we're going to move on with chapter 8. We are going to have some problems because my outline stops now at the end of Act 2 right now because we completely overhauled it last session. So let's just get started and work on chapter 8. So my chapter 8 beats, I had started those. I had some anemic ones, and I had this first round, and it was going round and round with the AI when I was using that prompt in Playground. And, oh, I forgot to give you guys the link here. I apologize. Let me copy the web link and give this to you all. Yeah, Brussels sprouts, terrible idea. All right, there's the link to the Future Fiction Academy web hub for this event. What this page has for you is it has everything that we've been doing. It has kind of the schedule. It also has the tools I plan to use, the stats of what's been happening. So I've been updating as we go. And I also have some prompts from different sessions that we did. And yeah, it's the entire story outline, which is now out of date, actually, because we made changes. And then the human planning, which this shows all of the human words that I did, plus the different methodologies I have at my disposal and commands and what I thought for the session. Given that we are here in session 5 and we're supposed to be writing Act 4 and we're halfway through Act 2, I was grossly optimistic in my event planning, but that's okay. It's the first one, so this is how we learn. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into these chapter 8 beats, which this was the scene at the bookstore, and it was confusing because the AI thought like, well, if Mrs. Bennett's planning this thing, then we need to just do it. So we are in Sudowrite, and it's 8, so it should be an even. And here we are in chapter 8. So I'm going to use pieces of these beats that the AI wrote because I kind of like them. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to have to edit these in here in Notion because I got this information here and it's all in one document so I can find it. So I like this. She is excitedly prepares a pre-brand doll. Oh my goodness. Excitedly plans a pre-ball dinner party to create opportunities for engagements and sends out elaborate things. She insists on the grandest decorations and finest cuisines. determined to impress her guests. I think I was already fixing these in Playground where I was like, no, I want this. So I'm going to grab this. Yeah, this was in the instructions here. Oh, it's right here. To force engagements in an attempt for Jane and Elizabeth, who are in a courtship with Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley. She sends out invitations to specific guests, including Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley, the Lucases, and the Longs, and her sister Phillips. Okay, let's go here to this one. Mrs. Bennet tries to get Mr. Bennet interested in the dinner party she is planning for a week and a half away. And Mr. Bennet is not helping. He is trying to get his family to be ready as the younger girls and Mr. Collins are already at the Phillipses, and the Bennet carriage has just returned to fetch Mr. and Mrs. Bennet and the elder Bennet daughters, Jane and Elizabeth. This shows the lack of ability for the Bennets to have more than one carriage. The carriage has to take them in turns. Okay. And then, so this is, that's what happens there. So now we are attending a card game. Describe Aunt Phillips's modest home in Meryton, where Mr. Phillips is a barrister. I think he's a barrister. Yeah, he's a lawyer. He's basically like he's the local lawyer. You can mention Captain Carter and Lieutenant Denny. And the card game they are playing is, I think, whist. I think it's whist that has gambling. It's like spades. Yeah, it's a trick taking game. Where Elizabeth is sitting next to Mr. Wickham, but Lydia is his actual partner. So he and Elizabeth can talk. Elizabeth's partner in playing is, who would not care? Let's say Jane, but then Jane already would hear about Mr. Darcy. Jane would have been at another table because they would have separated the girls. Who is somebody old? Oh, I know. Her partner in playing is Mrs. Long because she doesn't care. That's fantastic. So shares his tale of woe about Mr. Darcy with Elizabeth, causing her to doubt his character. Mr. Wickham is sly and learns from Lydia that Elizabeth is courting Mr. Darcy. And Mr. Wickham hopes that he is a better gentleman than what he knew when they were together. The tale is slightly truncated compared to what's in Pride and Prejudice. where Wickham focuses on being a favorite of old Mr. Darcy and promised a living that Darcy denied him. So he has to be a soldier. There is a small mention of Mr. Darcy's sister, but Wickham and Mr. Wickham calls her proud. But Mrs. Long interrupts to say that all young ladies of that age carry far too much confidence and a lack of sense as she glares at Lydia, who keeps shamelessly flirting with Mr. Wickham. Okay. I'll put this into story beat 5. The card game continues. I'm putting that because it's going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'm crossing a stride. So we'll paste this here. There's a small mention. Elizabeth asks Mr. Wickham about Mr. Darcy's sister, who she has heard wonderful things about. Mr. Wickham calls her proud. Okay, so Mrs. Long is showing some sense here. We're not doing the preparations here. We want... I don't know what else could happen in this scene. Control Z. All right, so we have these for right now. We'll use some ChatGPT just to help. This is a scene for a Pride and Prejudice variation. Please read the outline and suggest additional things that could happen that involve Kitty, Jane, and perhaps Mr. Bennet. There we go. There we go. Feeling left out. She seeks to assert her importance at the dinner party. There is no dinner party. All right. The AI cannot handle that. Somebody is planning a dinner party, but the dinner party is not happening in this scene. Pretty funny. So we will do this. We'll take this out. We'll do a new chat, put it in 4, and we'll just take out, number 1, because that's the one that says she's planning the dinner party. Okay, so there we go. After the card game, that's what we want. Perfect. Nope, Kitty was already there. Allow her to attend. Nope, that's not happening. We're not having the dinner party. Stop generating. I like this. After the card game. So, and that kind of inspires an idea for me here of where, let's take this out and we'll go to number 6. Elizabeth chooses to sit out the next round as the party ended up uneven. And her Aunt Phillips approaches her. To complain about Mr. Collins. Half the game was a sermon on the vices of gambling. I told him we were using fish, but there was no money attached. No money, what is the word? Like staked. Elizabeth chuckles lightly, and it does start to make her feel guilty. That she was so angry about Mr. Darcy complaining about Mr. Collins. And here was her aunt doing the same. Aunt Phillips asks, oh, I know. I will say, Elizabeth asks why Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy were not invited. And Aunt Phillips says something to the effect of, despite your mother's insistence that I do so, I simply could not. Mr. Bingley is a client of my husband. Who do you think oversaw the lease? No, until you girls are married to those gentlemen, I cannot claim to be of their sphere. Elizabeth furrows her brow, frustrated by the many rules of society, as Lydia's cackling laughter interrupts their talk when wine is spilled and poor Mary, who took Elizabeth's place at the table, was the victim. So 7. Oh, I just pressed enter for 7. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 3 rounds of beats. So number 7, what happens next? I like the Jane. After the card game, Elizabeth and Jane are waiting for the carriage to arrive to take them back to Longbourn. During this time, Jane may not be as terrible as Mr. Wickham paints him. Let's see here. I don't know. I wanted to have it. Mr. Collins warns her. I don't remember where I put it in the outline, the new outline where Mr. Collins warns her, because I know I did. So if I come over to outline work, oh, let me check the chat. I haven't been checking in with you guys very much. I'm sorry. So the window, live streaming on YouTube. Yeah, the Brussels sprouts. Terrible Brussels sprouts. Okay. All right. We are doing well. We are 25 minutes in, and we are working on these beats. I like writing beats. To me, it feels very, how does the movie play in my head? So, and I think I'm going to use some of the AI for Notion. After the card game, Elizabeth and Jane are waiting for the carriage to arrive. During this time, oh, I forgot to check to see when I was going to have I have a part where Mr. Collins warns. Yeah, it's in the next chapter. Oh, and we're kind of already in there. Oh, so I can't do that. Okay, so that's not going to work. So this has to be completely gone. Waiting for the carriage with her father, Kitty, and I'm trying to think the configuration here, and Mrs. Bennet. Yeah, that works. As the other group, first carriage back to Longbourn. Kitty complains that everyone is finding a gentleman but her. Elizabeth is taken aback and asks her to explain, which Kitty says Jane and Lizzie have the rich gentleman from Netherfield Park, and Mary has Mr. Collins. Elizabeth starts to point out that leaves Kitty and Lydia without a gentleman. And Mr. Bennet loses his temper, declares he has heard enough about gentlemen callers, entailments, engagements, and officers, and would like a, what is the word? I was thinking like it's like a boycott, but it's not a boycott. He wants would like a, he's heard enough about gentlemen callers, entailments, engagements, and officers. Furlough, I guess, on any further conversation thereof. Whoever speaks next must speak sense. Mrs. Bennet starts to bring up her dinner party again, her dinner party plans that she talked about with her sister Phillips. And Mr. Bennet crushes her. Yeah, that's the end of the scene. This is perfect. That is some comic relief, and I'm chuckling. If I'm chuckling, they'll chuckle. Not conversation. All right, much better beats. So I'll use these. They are not anemic anymore. So we'll just take that out. All right, and we'll copy these. Come over to Sudowrite this one, and I will paste and match style. So I get my numbering. So I have it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there should be a number 8. Oh, no, just 7. So that's fine. And I will go ahead and run most accurate. I'm going to kind of read it as it goes because I'm kind of curious. And there's Sister Phillips. Mr. Bennet! As the younger Bennet girls and Mr. Collins were already at the Phillipses, and their carriage had just arrived to pick him up himself. Okay, perfect. Oh, and see, I would edit that right there and say he felt keenly, but then reminded himself that he would soon be less daughters. Indeed, Mr. Bennet. Okay, as they prepared to depart, shaking off her thoughts. Okay, they rolled away. I do need to fix this because they're like constantly thinking. It's too much telling and not enough showing. I guess. Good evening. Oh, it would be Aunt Phillips, not Mrs. Phillips. Would you care to join us for a round of whist? Thank you, Mr. Wickham. They're meeting for the first time. Mr. Wickham, I'm truly sorry to hear of your misfortunes. Pray, Mr. Wickham, what of Mr. Darcy's sister? I have heard she is quite accomplished. All young ladies of that age carry far too much confidence and a lack of sense. Where were Mr. Bingley? Why were not invited this evening? I simply could not. Never a dull moment with our family. Poor Mary. It's not a soft autumn breeze. It's going to be a very, that's not happening. We're left without suitors. Before she could speak, Mr. Bennet cut in sharply. Enough! I have had her quite enough about gentlemen callers, entailments, engagements, and officers this evening. Undeterred. Silence, woman. That's exactly what I wanted. Pretty close. Okay, so that's 2,000 words. It's going to need some edits. Just so that we're doing the same things, I will go ahead and run it with Best Prose because I kind of want to see what Best Prose writes on those same beats. Oh, got a label. Most accurate. And over here, we will run Best Prose and we'll copy that. I'm going to copy this one over here. And since it's chapter 8, I get to copy and paste it into alpha. So add new. Paste it in. And this is chapter 8. I did also promise that I would create a... Okay, well, actually, this is why I run 2 story engines. So while chapter 8's cooking over there, let's go ahead and get some chapter 9 beats going. So we'll do chapter 9, create the chapter, and generate the beats. And this is where Jane is like, no, Mr. Darcy's just fine. And all those things there. This one's not going to be as long because Best Prose just does not write as long. Oh, this is better. I can actually kit bash these together a lot because Best Prose realized that she's meeting Mr. Wickham for the first time. And the other one did not. So I'll be able to use those. My sister is but 15. Okay. Young ladies of a certain age can be rather trying, do you not find? I also put the words in Mr. Wickham's phrase. We were once intimate until he selfishly... So this is much better dialogue for that part. So yeah, in this particular case, when I kit bash these together, I will be using a lot more of the Best Prose, I think. It captured this particular scene a little bit better. So let me copy those, come back over to Alpha. Alpha's finished the beats for 9. I'll close this out. And I already brought over. Okay, there it is. I was like, I brought it over. It was scrolled at the bottom. Paste this in. And now we have chapter 8, which is Best Prose. Not too shabby. That's 3,500 words more. So I think that puts us over 3,000. I think that puts us over 30,000. We are at 30,000. We are 60% wet, 60% there. We're not 60% through the story. A minor detail. Let me go ahead and check the chat and see how we're doing. making sure it's making sense that I'm going back and forth between the two story engines. Does anyone else run two story engines, by the by? If you want to let me know in the chat, I would be fascinated to know. Or does this entire methodology seem bonkers that I run back and forth between the two? Because one will be working the beats and another one will be running something. Let me get my notes out here. Karen, yes, because you taught me. I know. It makes it so much simpler, right? It's like, okay, yeah, that's cooking. Let me go fix this. Let me go run that. All right, so this one's I've got to validate these beats, so we'll go ahead and cook the beats. Cook the beats for chapter 10 in beta. So it's chapter 9 is alpha. Create the chapter, generate the beats, and then we have to fix the outline for chapter 3 at some point here. All right, Elizabeth confides in Jane for a garden walk. Okay. Towards her and her family. Elizabeth specifically shares what Mr. Wickham told her about being denied the living at the card game previous evening. Jane reminds her that she is in a courtship with Mr. Darcy, and that if she has misgivings, it is Mr. Darcy who she should speak with. But Jane warns Elizabeth if she can really rebuke Mr. Darcy's behavior, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. I want to say something along the lines of like, Jane's trying to say like, are you really in a position, warns Elizabeth to consider. There we go. Truly in a position to rebuke Mr. Darcy's behavior or demand for the man to explain himself. She only just met. Jane points out that Mr. Wickham is a new acquaintance. Elizabeth argues this is definitely going to be two beats here. So this is going to be beat number 2. In their shared bedroom. There we go. Jane warns Elizabeth. Elizabeth argues, so are Mr. Bingley and Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy. And Jane shakes her head at her sister. You are so keen to argue, Father, you will look for any evidence which supports your position. Try looking for evidence of the opposite. You may find yourself less distressed. Ooh, Jane is snapping it down. I like this, Jane. Okay. The Bennet family prepares for the arrival of Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley for a garden walk. Don't need that. Tells Elizabeth she will be waiting downstairs as Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley are sure to call any minute. All right. So Elizabeth is left alone. So that's number 3. I like it. She also considers she struggles with her feelings. She to her Aunt Gardner, asking about the Darcy family. Wishing she had someone impartial to speak to, as everyone seemed to be focused on Jane and her finding matches at any cost. She remembers that her Aunt Gardner grew up in Derbyshire. Elizabeth starts to pen a letter to her Aunt Gardner asking about the Darcy family, and if she knew anything about an estate called Pemberley. Okay. After leaving her room, ready for the day and to post her letter, she is stopped by her cousin, Mr. Collins, on the landing. He warns Elizabeth about Mr. Darcy's suitability as a suitor given his family expectations and social status, insinuating that Elizabeth is not good enough. He right here, this goes here. Mr. Collins delivers his warning in a pompous and long-winded manner. He has written to Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who you can be sure will put an end to this nonsense. Elizabeth becomes furious and storms off. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's in 5. Okay. So 5 goes with 6. Yeah, we don't need 6 and 7 here. Boop. So this will be number 6. Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley arrive for the garden walk with talk about the weather and the nature around them. Elizabeth keeps waiting for Mr. Darcy to realize she is upset. But to her consternation, the man seems perfectly pleased to walk around the sparse garden in November, saying very little at all. Okay. And now we need to make her feel like an idiot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is going to be 7. Check my outline. What do I want to have happen again? I need, I think I have it here. Yeah, the Sudowrite outline is where I updated things. Okay. Concerns. Jane rejects them. She ignores Mr. Darcy the entire time on their walk. When was it? It would have been, this could be like a few days apart. I think, Would Elizabeth say something about Mr. Bennet, Mr. Wickham? Maybe not. Not yet. Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley have not yet proposed to the elder daughters. Okay. Perfect. I like this idea. I don't know where Mr. Darcy would have gone, but we can... Yeah, maybe he went to London. And okay, so this will work. I'm trying to think of like how I'm going to word this. I do think she needs to mention Mr. Wickham. Okay. She braves telling Mr. Darcy that last night at cards, they made a new acquaintance. Mr. Wickham. Elizabeth expects Mr. Darcy to have some reaction, but the man remains fairly stoic. Instead, he informs her that he brought her a gift. It is with her father in his study. Elizabeth is confused and tries to ask Mr. Darcy knows Mr. Wickham, which the man replies, to which Mr. Darcy replies, that he could not, in good conscience, claim an acquaintance with the man, nor recommend another seek one. Elizabeth is confused, is flummoxed. But as they are back at the house, Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy speak privately for a moment, for giving their regrets to Mrs. Bennet's impromptu invitation to stay for dinner. And then number 8. And what the future holds for them. She remembers her letter in her pocket and goes to her father's study to have it posted the next day. And while there, her father pulls her aside and mentions Mr. Darcy's gift. Elizabeth is sour about it. And her father laughs at her. Her father tells her to stop playing silly games. Elizabeth asked why Mr. Darcy didn't give her the gift himself, and Mr. Bennet scolds her, not thinking that would do things properly and send it through her father. Besides, Mr. Bennet points out that Mr. Bingley did not bring a token for Jane. Elizabeth groaned, reminded that so much of her life always hinged on the needs and wants of her sisters. But she accepted the gift from her father and asked for permission to open it privately. Mr. Bennet agrees. As he knows what it is. And Elizabeth goes upstairs and puts the gift in her trunk, deciding that until she hears from her Aunt Gardner, she will not be influenced by Mr. Darcy's wealth and gifts. It's madness. It makes no sense, but I have to have some reason for what she's doing. So we have this. I think I need to break these into smaller beats. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's make this one number 8, because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, the odd number is always the first one. 7. So we're going to do, this is a 9. And this is a 10. Okay. So we have 10 beats and, oh, I got to save them because these are chapter 9 beats. Chapter 9. 3:53. Okay, we are an hour in. I do kind of like this 2-hour thing. It puts me on the clock and it kind of is forcing me to focus. And I'm like, okay, got to get the work done. Let's see here. What do we have in the chat? Let me click this to go. We'll do most accurate first because it always takes the longest. And let me see what's in the chat, if there is anything in the chat. Yes, Mr. Darcy is such an introvert, and I try to write him as an introvert. That's a good point in the chat there. But sometimes it's the same one. I hear you, Rochelle. So the big thing that I do is I keep them in separate tabs, very far apart, so that way we can keep that away. It's interesting that we do not have as many viewers. That it is. I definitely think these are more popular during the week. I think is when we're all writing. So I'll take that. I'll kind of note that because I expected many more people for the Saturday, but kind of makes sense. Everybody else is busy. They have Saturday lives. Me, I'm often writing. Well, not often writing. That's not true. My weekends are usually work though, of some thing there. Oh, we have the soft morning light. Of course we do. But hey, wow, 600 words and we're halfway through 3-4. So these beefed up beats really make a difference. If you can write like a little mini paragraph that it can go off of. And that's one of the reasons why I run two models, because what I find most of the time is that I like the meat of most accurate, but I like the dialogue of best prose. It's the one that inspires me the most, that I can like grab and keep going and everything. We'll let that run and we'll go look at the beats for chapter 10 because this is the last part that I have to do for Act 2. And then we'll go from there. Okay, begin the scene by describing the setting of the breakfast table the morning after Mr. Collins proposes to Mary. State that include the exact words of the announcement for their engagement and specific community remarks in the parlor. Not proposing. Show Mr. Bennet's reactions. Describe his demeanor. Jane and Elizabeth. Mr. Darcy was not at Netherfield Park when he left. Describe Elizabeth's actions in detail. She quickly grabs her shawl. She doesn't need her shawl to grabs her book. We don't need a cliffhanger on this one because this is the cliffhanger that Mr. Darcy doesn't come to see her. It makes it seem very bleak indeed. Okay, so I'm going to go with those beats. This scene's kind of a throwaway scene. I mean, I don't really care about Mr. Collins getting engaged. And I don't think anybody else really does. I mean, we just had this big, explosive, monumental scene with Darcy and Elizabeth. So, I need to rename this the Beats. So I know that it's the Beats. And just to explain to everyone, the reason why I keep my beats is because if I do change my book, I find that it's helpful to have the beats so I can have something to start off with for what I need to change if I need to rerun a section. Chapter 10 beats. I'm kind of writing into the dark a little bit here because I've made changes to the story so much. All right, so this one should be done. It is, and that is most accurate. Let's go ahead and generate another chapter 9, create it, copy the chapter 9 beats over, not the chapter 10 beats over. And if that's most accurate, then now I need best prose, and I run that. Since I know I'm good with the beats for chapter 10, now I have to fix the outline for Act 3. Interesting. I think future write-a-thons, I'll just write, like, here's a section and we'll write every other hour because it's finally draining on me that I've processed and validated the beats for over 30,000 words, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like different ones. So Rochelle asks me a question about do I keep my silos? I do keep my silos, but I like to keep everything as well, because just in case I want to work them through another tool or play with them or expand them or something like that, then I can do that. So I've never lost any data from Sudowrite, but I have fears of doing so. And it's not just Sudowrite. I don't even trust Google Docs. Like, I have stuff in For the Words and also Google Docs and then also in Vellum. So I keep everything in multiple places just in case. Pretty much we have to lose all digital information for me to lose all my stuff at this point. I think most people will understand that who've ever lost a hard drive. Simon, good point. Yeah, 2 hours does seem to be a good chunk of time to get work focused and done. I think what I'm going to end up moving to is something that's along the lines of like a assigned weekly. I'm working on my projects. New TV show, Word Hoarders and Interventions. What to do for others who refuse to toss unused words. Listen, I hoard my words. I'm not harming anybody. Okay. It doesn't bother hygiene. It doesn't impact my pets, but I hear you. But no, I think that a weekly regular write with me session or something like that might be helpful. On one hand, I'm like, yay, do these things because you'll do them and you'll be consistent. But then the other part of me is like, Elizabeth, you don't do anything consistent. This is going to be a failure. Don't do that. Don't sign up for that. So we may have to do it in like seasons. Yeah, that's what I'll be. It's just like the TV show. It's seasons, right? So it'll be like, oh, I'm on sweepstakes. I'm on break. So tune in next time for the thrilling conclusion of what happens at the end of this book. Okay, yeah, people may be traveling. All right, let's see what's going on with our story engine here. It looks like it finished. Wow, okay. Shut up. I've never seen that. How many of you have seen best prose ever beat most accurate and how many words it wrote? Because I've never, ever. So most accurate of chapter 9 was 2,051 words. Best prose was 2,132. Can we process that for just a second? I'm like, what the? And it is by 5/6, so it's up higher that it wrote more words. Maybe just okay. It wrote more words. We're good here. It was that 3/4 beat that it seemed it added more dialogue. Maybe. Nope, it hallucinated. Really, best prose? Look at that. It went off the rails at 3/4. she's supposed to be writing and in her bedchamber, and 3-4 was like, nope, I'm not doing that. That's boring. We're going to have people talking. And it just did its own thing. And now we're on the next morning and all of these things. And now we're in the gardens and bad, went off the rails. Salvage what you can. I'm annoyed. All right. Well, there we go. Too good to be true. Best Pros did not write more than Most Accurate. It just went off the rails. All right. I'm going to go ahead and send these here. This one should be the most accurate, but I always double check it because sometimes things do switch places on me. Then come back to Story Engine and we'll go get that naughty Best Pros, which this one is not the Best Pros. Yeah, most accurate. It always flips the position. Send to doc. I think at the end of this, when I'm done editing, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be just so fed up with Best Pros and going off the rails. Off rails. Okay, so we've labeled it. We have shamed it. Now let's go deal with chapter 10. All right, we'll run most accurate and let that run. And, I also have to fix my characters too. There's a lot of work to do. Streaming. Okay. Yeah, I do keep the hallucinations. You never know. Leland, you can do some of these for your stories anytime, my friend. That is the beauteous thing of the fact that you are a manager of the YouTube channel. All right. What would be some other genres that would be fun to write live? One thing I've always wanted to do live that I think would be fun is writing a murder mystery where we decide to make everybody a really good suspect and we don't decide who the killer is till the end. So it's not the greatest thing because there's no way to solve the case. I guess that's how you have to write mysteries anyway, and then you go back and fix your clues. I don't know if anybody else watches, if anyone else writes mysteries here. Ooh, I do have my Phoenix putty. Let's talk fidget toys. That's the other thing about writing with AI allows you to do. You can have fidget toys, which I find is helpful for if I'm sitting here and just watching it write. Because I actually can read it as fast as it writes. How many other people can read it as fast as it writes with most accurate? Let me know in the chat. Does anyone else I can't read it in depth necessarily, but proposed to Mary Bennett and she accepted. Of all the Bennett sisters, I never would have suspected her to be the first one to be engaged. Indeed, replied Miss Pope. I've heard that they're still courting the elder Bennett sisters, but neither's made any declaration yet. Such an odd state of affairs. Yeah, this would cause some major drama llamas. So I need to have, I don't know if I want to be this far out or anything like that. Simply biding their time before making declarations is all the more romantic, don't you think? There's nothing. Okay, and she wouldn't care about Lizzie, but sure, we'll leave it there. We'll make her be a good mother in this one. Usually I write her as a very bad mother. In one of my books, she's actually abusive, physically abusive, which was actually very common. And kind of modeled off of my step-grandmother, who is dead, but she was very abusive to my mother and her sisters. So I have fun making Mrs. Bennett kind of the villain of the story. Mr. Bingley, please forgive my unannounced visit. I could not. Interesting. And I am going to have to fix this story anyway because I need to add some more stuff with some more drama with Caroline Bingley. This thing is going to be really long, but that's okay. Not entirely selfless. Okay, is Mr. Bingley proposing? Because what the heck, man? What the heck? Well-worn copy of Camilla, so I'll have to check that. Within the parlor. He was, in fact, not present when I took my leave. Okay. Miss Bennett, I've come to realize that my actions were misguided. I thought it best not to involve Mr. Darcy in my personal affairs, but now I understand that my decision was an error. Oh. Wait, what's happening? What tea is this? What's happening in my story? Because I need to know now, what did Mr. Bingley make? This is like a good subplot. I can add to this. It didn't say what happened, but it's kind of looping a little bit. But I think that Mr. Bingley needs to screw something up. Urgent business. Alas, now I see. We're all capable. What mistake did he make? But yeah, now I have to come up with something because this is good. Okay, does this happen to you all too? Where you weren't even planning nothing and then it does a little bit? Yeah, usually ADHD goes off to ChatGPT to do something else. I had it. Yeah, I'm like, okay. I love it. That is, the AI did not come up with what happened, but it's insinuating that Mr. Bingley screwed something up, and now I want him to do that. I think that he needs to do that. Okay, most accurate. We'll go there. Let me copy that, and let's see what Best Prose says, because I think Best Prose is not going to come up with something very good. Okay, Best Prose. And I can copy this, and since it's the alpha one that I need to bring it into, new document, chapter 10. No, most accurate. And this is where I need to put a note for myself of like, yo, you need to have the thing. Mr. Bingley made a mistake. And presumably, Mr. Darcy is fixing it. I want it to be something that it sounds very grave, but it's actually very trivial as to what he did. I wonder if it's something to do with the ball. I need to ponder this. I guess we'll ask ChatGPT. In the story of Pride and Prejudice, imagine this exchange. Not even spelling right. And it wants to call it axing. That was not even the word. Mr. Bingley. No. What would be a mistake that Mr. Bingley could make in his affairs without telling Mr. Darcy? Then realizing that made the situation worse. Give me 4 ideas. 4 possibilities. Mistakes Mr. Bingley could make that would make things worse if he didn't inform Mr. Darcy. Okay, investing in a scam. I like that a little bit. That's kind of a cool twist here. The gentleman is mine. Unwise matchmaking. Yeah, we kind of are that with Jane. Rushed purchase of an estate. Oh, my daughter just sent me a note. She's writing chapter 2 right now. So this is the development. On Friday night, I showed her how to work with ChatGPT, and the girl wrote 3,500 words. She's 14. Amazing. She's never even she doesn't even like to write essays or anything. She wrote a chapter. Now she's working on chapter 2. So she finished that chapter yesterday of, she got up to 6,000 words. It's like a whole little episode of fantasy. She calls them chapters. So now that would work. That's what it is. Number 4. I didn't even think about that. Where Mr. Bingley talked to Mr. Wickham and, he lent him money. Yes. I'm writing this down. Okay. Mr. Wickham approached Mr. Bingley and Mr. Bingley gave him money. Perhaps they were gambling at the inn, maybe? No, I don't know. I have to think about that one. Probably not. Oh, but maybe somewhere else. Oh, yes, Mr. Bingley was invited by Colonel Forster with the officers. Yes, and Mr. Darcy didn't go because Mr. Darcy wouldn't have gone in case he ran into Mr. Wickham. Mr. Bingley, yeah, okay, I'm seeing this whole scene now here. If this isn't making sense to people, it's because this is how fast my brain goes. Okay, so I always have to think about, like, if I don't want Mr. Darcy there, for example, Mr. Darcy can't be there. There has to be a reason why Mr. Darcy's not there. It can't just be, I don't want Mr. Darcy to be there. There has to be, like, why, a characterization for him. Why wouldn't Mr. Darcy have gone? If Mr. Bingley got an invitation from Colonel Forster, Mr. Darcy would have given his regrets. He would have had a headache. He would have found some way to not be there. Mr. Bingley would have wanted to go to keep appearances and everything and to be social. Yes, that's exactly what happened. That makes sense. So it was at Colonel Forster's. But of course, Elizabeth is going to be, she's going to be Elizabeth's not going to know, but Jane's going to know the secrets because Mr. Bingley's not going to tell Elizabeth. Let me go to the chat and see if everyone else is the same way. Let's see here. Space tacos. Wait, hold on. I want space tacos. Space tacos are now a thing. Time for a 6,000-word side story on what happened that can be used as a reader magnet or giveaway. Yeah. Make it funny. Maybe messed up Mr. Collins. No, I what do you guys think of it, of the idea of that Mr. Bingley got somehow entangled in Mr. Wickham because Mr. Darcy didn't tell him exactly to stay away from Mr. Wickham and everything like that. And so it's this problem now. I think that works for the story. And Mr. Bingley is such a sucker. Okay. Coming back over here, best prose should be done. If I had actually clicked the button, apparently I forgot to click the button, so it never ran. So then I'll bring that over. Mr. Collins has proposed and I have accepted. Shriek of delight. Kitty followed. To think, a wedding under my roof at last. You have rendered your mother speechless. Oh, that's really good. Under Mr. Collins's doting and ridiculous behavior. At least it would remain entailed to the Bennet family. So there we go. Inviting us to visit her in London. No, it's just off the rails. The end. Really? 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 Okay, best prose. You're drunk. Go home. There's nothing in here about London. It's like it just did not. I know why it broke, but it's just frustrating. Oh well. There are some lines that I can use. All right, let me go check the chat. I'm not qualified to have this. Okay, Rochelle does. Rochelle loves the Wickham idea. Yeah, humans will always be better than robots, but we have to use it as wisely as we can, definitely. Mr. Bingley misplaced the Fordyce sermons or blacked out lines when he spilled ink in them, causing Mr. Collins to preach wrong words. Now, that would be funny. I do like the part. So one of my favorite versions of the Pride and Prejudice movie, it is the 2005 version, mostly because I've watched it with the director's commentary. And for the scene that Americans got at the end, which British audiences and international audiences did not, where they're at the end and they're kind of like smooching over the candlelight. It was an homage to one of my other favorite movies, 16 Candles, which now is super toxic. Don't recommend going back and watching your favorite 80s movies. They're terrible. But I did always love that scene at the end with Molly Ringwald's character kissing Jake over the candles of her birthday. And I think it was around the time that Joe Wright, Joe Wright's the director for Pride and Prejudice, but oh, now I can't think of it. But the director who gave us all of our, the Rat Pack and everything like that when he passed away, it was trying to do an homage to that. Okay, I like the Wickham idea because it's the same thing Lizzie and Jane deal with later. Pretty much, by not revealing the truth about Wickham, someone they are close to falls for his schemes. Yeah, and this story does already have that Lydia tries to run off with Mr. Wickham. So I do think that this is like a nice, fun change to the story, because we've already changed the story in a lot of ways to where they're in a courtship. So naturally, Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy's schedules changed compared to the original. Okay, 2011, best prose, which I know already went highly off the rails as well again. Highly off the rails. Did I not update the outline or something in this one? It's so weird that it's doing so bad. Nope, it's right there. Okay. All right. Well, that is what the cookies did. That's how the cookie crumbles. So coming over to the main one, we had most accurate, and now we'll do best prose. Chapter. Nope. Beast more naughty best prose. That is off the rails. And we must shame it. Chapter 10. Those people I know who write with Claude, though, they do it differently. Or they're actually doing it in small chunks, and it has the story so far, and they're like leveraging the context window. The context window. That's not really how Story Engine works. It doesn't look at what you wrote before and to write what's next. It'll be interesting to see, like, that's a whole nother way to write with the stories. Write your stories and have your writing, and then go like what comes next, decide what you like in that moment, and you're kind of like writing that way. All right, everyone, we have 10 chapters so far. Let's see where our word count is. And I promised I would create a spreadsheet, and I will do that because this is going to be tedious now. I have them written in my notebook, but so 8, 9, 10, we have most accurate and best prose each time. Definitely getting faster at this. And let's see, best prose, which was off the rails, 2120. Most accurate was 2666. For 9, the off the rails bit was BP was 2141. And if you can see my notebook, it looks like I'm a doctor. Nothing makes sense at all. Just because I'm trying to like write quickly. 2051, this is most accurate. And then 8, we had an anemic 1419 and 1907 for most accurate. All right, I will go ahead and create let's see here. Let's go to this, and I'll just use this to make an actual Google spreadsheet. And we'll go chapter 1, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 2. There's methods to my madness. Once I have this here, I can highlight this, and then it should copy the pattern of duplicating them. It did not. All right, we'll do it the other way. Just go most accurate. Best prose. Final kit bash edit. And then the final. This will be my tracking thing for the book. And then we have chapter, and we have word count. It'd be helpful if I could remember this here, and this here, and then this there. Now we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, Now this, we can definitely just extend all the way down. Boop. We need more. We need like 26. Okay, that'll work. So right now we're at 3,200 on the final kit bash. Okay, most accurate from my notes, which, because I wrote them down so I don't have to keep going back and back and back and forth. All right, this was no clue what this says. Okay, we'll look at number 1 again. Because I can't. Best Prose 2034. Yep, that is that one. And then what did I put for most accurate? 2549, not 99. Okay, so there we go. This is the word count tracker. All right, most accurate. 2549 for chapter 1. Chapter 2 was 2933. Turn the page. Chapter 3 was 2551. And then 1973. 2539 for chapter 5. Chapter 6 was this morning. This is just insane. Chapter 7 was 2090. Chapter 8 is today, which I wrote these down over here. Most accurate is 1907, and then 2051, and then 2666. So that is where we're at. This way we can have a running total for the most accurate of how many words we've generated. Same thing for best prose. This way I don't have to keep doing this every time. I've been doing it manually each time. And I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea. 2034. Chapter 2 was 1830. And then chapter 3, 1874. Does anyone else keep track of their word counts as because I am curious. Like, I am curious. Oh, this is 2539. This one was not 2539. This was 3936. But I knew that one's a bad one. It hallucinated and kept doing the same thing over and over again. Chapter 16, 1933. Then it was 1485, and then number 8 was 1419. 2141, which also hallucinated in 2120. Oop. Pretty close. So if we were to put those two together, oops, insert one row above. Total generated equals this number plus this number. We are at 44,489 words already for the weekend of generated words. That's a lot. That's a lot of words to go through. I already don't like my job. All right. Curious how many words have been used in Sudowrite. That's a good question. Let's find out. So I could not Sudowrite. My words actually carry. They rotated over, and then I also lost words. And I have extra words because I work for I do contract for Sudowrite, and when I worked for them, I had a bunch of words that were rotating over. So this one, 633,000. I can't tell you when we started. However, I did write down. We realized this, I think, at the end of session 3. So right before I wrote chapters 3, 4, 5, from 3 on, I had 674,000. So let me go back to the spreadsheet and I'll put this in here. So I originally had, insert a row above. No, right here, insert a row above, insert a row above, and insert a row above. Okay. Now remember, I brought in my outline and stuff like that. I'm generating those things in in OpenAI and also like working with ChatGPT and stuff when I need to fix something, or I'm writing it myself, one of those areas. So Sudowrite before at chapter 3, at chapter 3, I was at 674,276 words. I now have, let's see here, 633,775. This is end of chapter 10. So I have done equals this one minus this one, 40,000 words. That equals divided by 10, or no, not 10, it's 7. I've only it's 8 because it's inclusive, because it's chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 8 chapters. So for 8 chapters, it took me 40,000 words. So I'm averaging 5,000 words per chapter because I'm running it best prose and most accurate. If I wasn't doing that, if I was just using most accurate, it would have been these words here, 25,000 words, 18,000 words, because I'm bringing the other components in. So, plus I'm losing a little bit of words for, this includes like generating beats too. But if you write your own beats, you don't even need to do that. So could you do this on a 90,000 word one? Yeah, you could. I think it's probably more accurate to go like you would need at least half of the $129 a month session, and just go like half of it goes to one novel, half of it goes to the other. Yeah, sometimes it means cut the outline, sometimes add to it, that kind of a thing. So yeah, this is fascinating. We have 30 more minutes. I think here's my proposal. My proposal is that we stop early, so I get a little bit of a respite. We start again at 7 o'clock. We are still close to 50,000 words, but I don't think that it's just that. I want to get through generating the whole rest of the book. We might as well, and then that way I have this whole thing ready to do. But in order to do that, I need to fix my outline. So I vote we won't stop for 30 minutes here. I guess we'll finish the outline and start working on, I guess, the chunks, the next components. So for those of you who haven't seen component work, you're about to see some component work. Does that sound good to everybody? We'll do the last 30 minutes of components. And by component work, I mean, like, I'm going to be working on the outline, the character list for Act 3, because we're moving from Act 2 to Act 3. My characters have changed from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3. I did this last session too. But I'll check in the chat and I'll give it a few minutes for people to vote. But component work sounds good? All right. Now the good news is my story matches my beats. What I mean by that is I wrote the beats, I ran the words. I've not made any changes to those words. So right now they match the beats. So that means that my beats are actually my current running record of what has happened in the story. This is also another reason why I keep my beats separate from everything else. Now I'm going to show you guys a trick from Notion. I have 10 beats right here, right now. So what I'm going to do is no, I didn't want to do that. I think, I kind of want to do it on a different one. I don't want to do it here. All right, well, this is fine. We're going to old stuff. We're going to highlight all of this because this is the old outline. It's like practically, it's not completely out of date, but it's not what I want anymore for right now. So I'm going to turn this into a page, and that makes that go away. Oh, it did it all. No, that did not work. Control Z. Because there's already pages here. Okay, so we'll just move it down. Old. There we go. Now, the formatting's not completely right. Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll come into the Write A Thon. I have the beats. I'm just going to duplicate this page. Duplicating this page allows me to go with, okay, I'm going to be working on the outline from Act 3 on. So we duplicate this page in here, and that's what Notion's working on. The Beats 1. Okay, I'm going to rename this to Fixing the Outline for Acts 3 and Beyond. And I know what that means. So I'm going to not worry about that stuff right now. But all of these pages, here's what I can do. I can literally click on it and go turn it into text. And now chapter 1 beats are there. And turn it into text. And now chapter 2 beats are there. I'm basically making a mega prompt. This is why I like Notion a lot. A lot, a lot. Turn it into text. If there's a faster way to turn all these things, I wish there was a way to like select multiple pages and go mass. Maybe there is. Maybe I can highlight these. Oh. Oh, that's so much faster. We'll do that from now on. All right. So there's a couple of issues here where I have like the prompts in here. I don't need to keep this because I am getting rid of, I didn't get rid of the other page, the other page. So these are all still, I'm working on the new one. I'm not working on the, now there's going to be a problem because chapters 5 beats, they worked really well for best prose, but they're kind of busted as far as what happened in the story, but that's fine. We'll leave it as it is. It's good enough. Take this out. We have the chapter 6 beats. Wait. Yeah, so these I don't need anymore. All right, chapter 7. I think I worked with, yeah, I worked with those. Chapter 7, chapter 8 beats, where's my chapter 9 beats? Final round, first round. Oh yeah, chapter 8 was like weird. I remember now. Chapter 9 beats and chapter 10 beats should be there. Okay, so I literally now have a record of what should have happened in my story step by step. If you don't have it from the beats, you could, and you were like editing, you had words that you have already written, you could ask the AI one chapter at a time to write these for you. To put it into context of how long this is, well, this is all old stuff. And I am going to delete it because I don't want to confuse. I can go to another thing to reference the original outline. All right. So my beats for 10 chapters is 6,000 words. And this has generated, if we were just to go by the most accurate, I am halfway through the story. I'm pretty happy about that actually, because I am about halfway through the story. There's Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, and an epilogue left. So the book is going to be about 60,000 words. I'm okay with that. So if I was to look at most accurate, which does actually contain what actually happened, what really should be is it's 25,000 words minus about 1,000 words. Because I know that chapter 5, best prose, was actually written the better one, not that one. That one's a little bit hallucinatory, whatever. So let me go check the chat, make sure everybody understands what I'm doing here. Okay, so I have all these beats, and I need to know what the heck happens for the rest of the story. So let's try this. I could ask it to summarize these things, but I guess that's a good idea. All right, so we're going to come into Playground. We're going to refresh everything. Boop, it's gone. I'm going to work in 16K. I wonder if it can just write me an outline. Can you write me an outline, chapter by chapter, of what has happened in the story so far? And then over here in system, I'm going to put the story so far so it knows what it is. Max length, I'm not going to increase my presence. Let's see what it does. Okay, it's writing it's writing what happened in the chapters. That works. Then I'm going to ask it to put more details in. Okay. So it can do that. Let's do this. Great. Please write at least 5 to 6 sentences summarizing each chapter. So now we should get some more information. And we do. This is a very easy way to fix. Continue. Chapter 6, Chapter 7, Chapter 8. All right, I like it. So I've got those two pieces. So now we have revised outline. 1637 July 1. Because I'm at that point now where when I'm trying to go back on this, like, when did I write that one? What's this one? Which one's the newest one? I don't know. So I'm now using timestamps because we're that's where we're at right now. Turn it into a page. Yep. And I'm going to paste in chapter 1, chapter 2, sections, chapter 6. Okay. Now, we're going to come into Playground and we're going to create a persona. And I will try to get you guys this link. Okay. You are a plot doctor. You read a previous outline and update to how the story has changed, plus instructions of what to include, and write a new outline for the novel. Previous outline. Previous outline will be the outline that I got rid of, that I was like, nope, not doing that one anymore. That one is, let's go right here. Write A Thon. I think it's in the beats. Yeah, this one's the good. I made the changes in the Sudowrite outline, so we'll just go with this one for right now. Act 2 and all of this. So this is the playground that we have so far. An update. You cannot change the outline. Has already been written. You cannot change the outline in the acts that are in the update. I don't know that this is going to work. I'm not being very clear enough in the outline update. So you read an outline and outline update. Documenting how the story reads so far based on what has already been written, plus instructions of what to include for the rest of the story. Then you write a new outline for the novel. You cannot change the outline in the acts that are in the outline update. From the previous outline that are not in the updated outline, in the outline update. Okay, so I gave it those instructions. There's a previous outline. I think it's there. Put a dinkus here. Go outline update. Is going to be the new outline that we have, which is this one. Not that one, because that one has an epilogue. This one. Yes, through chapter 10. Okay. Oh, the numbering's going to be off. Yeah, let me fix that. My outline update, so I have chapter 1 through chapter 5 down here at the bottom. I need to change it to Act 1. And where 6 is, this is Act 2. Chapter 1. Chapter 2. I'm matching that formatting, the way that it was formatted. It actually would be better if each outline, if each chapter had its own number, so it's less likely to get confused. But just to be safe, and I'm putting these dinkuses to denote which sections go together. So this is like a mega prompt. So we'll put this here. This is in the beats, not the beats. This is going to go fixing the outline. Going to be mega prompt. This is what's in system. And it's a lot of words. It is going to be 3,442 words. So now I want it to write me I want added into the new outline. Let me see here if what I declared the new outline to be. I need to match the asset name. Then you write a new outline. So we'll put that in all caps. It just helps me. And it does also, I think, help the AI understand this goes with this, because when you all cap something, it changes what token it is. So it kind of takes it into a token number that doesn't usually have a lot of context. I think that's my hypothesis for why I think it understands better when you put variable names in all caps. Resolution. Yeah, and see, I can't even find where the new one is. Okay, there's outline update. I want to add it into the new outline. Mr. Bingley's mistake tells Jane. Elizabeth doesn't get to hear what that mistake was, but later it turns out that Mr. Bingley met Mr. Wickham. I don't know. I guess I'll just work that in because it doesn't, I don't know how that works with the plot yet. So I'm going to have to figure that out. I need to see what happens. I'm just going to say write a new outline. Write a new outline for Acts 3, 4, 5. Act 3, Act 4, and Act 5. There we go. Okay. Oh, my maximum length is off, and this does not write. This does not read right. Okay, let's try again. Catherine's interference. I don't think this works. It did change things, though. No. I mean, it's not a bad outline. This is the case where the AI did not mess up. It's just not what I want. It's not my level of melodrama. Let's rewrite that. Much higher melodrama. Let's see what it comes up with now. There we go. She's plagued by doubts. She arrives. This is perfect. It becomes a battleground. It's deciding that they get married very quickly. I don't know what's going on here. Let's validate this new one here that I'm reading. Act 3, Catherine's interference and reflection. Do you spend time? Let me pull up the original one that we're not going with anymore. There we go. Hearing devastated by Lady Catherine's interference, seeks solace in the embrace of Jane. Doubts consume her, questioning if she's truly worthy of Mr. Darcy's love and if they're really. Yeah, this is not. I mean, this is one way you could do it. I'm going to deviate from it because I think I basically played with the AI long enough that now my imagination is like, I know what happens. This always happens to me. AI is just a tool sometimes for me that where I see what I don't want and I'm like, I know exactly what I want now. So Mr. Darcy left because he has a more complicated marriage contract than Mr. Bingley does. While he was gone is when Mr. Bingley hooked up with Mr. Wickham, and that's the mistake that he's got to admit to Jane because he doesn't want to admit to Mr. Darcy, that he lent the man money. I'm starting to figure this out now. I'm starting to see how these pieces are going to play are going to fall into place. Okay. Does this happen to anybody else? Oh, I'm going into the thing here. Okay. Let's see here. Except Jane falls gravely ill. Yeah. Went into free playground and there's no system and user sections. Presume it's with only paid. No, you need to change the mode to chat, Nina. So even when I'm in playground, if I just refresh playground, because I don't like any of this, it comes to this. And then in the top right where it says mode, you have to go to chat. And that's when you get into system. And then you can choose your different models. I was working in 16K because it has 16,000 tokens worth of context. But GPT-4 can help. You can apply for it, not can help. I'm really losing my marbles here. I'm finally feeling the fatigue. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to wrap it up and ask if anyone has any questions about session number 6, which is going to be at 7 o'clock tonight. And I will be in much better shape to run that. So I'm going to work while we're gone. I'm going to get a little bit of a respite, and then I'm going to work on the outline. So hopefully I'll have the outline before 7 o'clock, or I'll be at least ready to work on the outline right away at 7 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock, I think we're going to be able to get all of Act 3 written, maybe. And then I will figure out what I'm going to do for Sunday, how I'm going to add more sessions, if I'm going to add more sessions. But I really kind of wanted to record the whole thing, like what it really took to get everything to generate, because this is not an easy task. So I will happily hear what say you all, if it makes sense to go ahead and record it all. Okay. Thank you, Leland and Harper, for saying the same. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. All right, everyone. I'm going to wish you a farewell. I know we're ending 10 minutes early, but I'm going to get my life together, as a good friend of mine says all the time. I love that new catchphrase of hers. But I need to do some soul searching on this Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, because I've made a kind of a mess of it, but not really, because I know what's going to happen with the rest of the story. And I'm going to try really hard not to think about the Herculean task of how many thousands of words I have to edit, because those words are not publishable by any stretch of the means. They're just raw words. So, all right. Everyone take care. I will see you at 7 o'clock Eastern. Bye. Yeah, the sausage is made. All right. I'll see you guys at 7.